Section 555.7 of the National Electrical Code addresses the location of service equipment for floating docks or marinas. The code mandates that the service equipment must be located adjacent to, but not on or in, the floating structure. Adjacency in this context generally implies being nearby and readily accessible without being directly affixed to or within the floating structure itself. The primary reason for this requirement is to prevent the transmission of electrical faults or hazards directly onto the floating structure, minimizing the risk of electric shock drowning and fire hazards. However, the interpretation of adjacent can sometimes be nuanced and may depend on the specific circumstances of the installation. It is not permissible to install the service equipment directly on the floating dock or within an enclosed structure that is integral to the floating dock. The code aims to isolate the electrical service from the physical movement and potential instability of the floating structure. There are some exceptions that may permit service equipment to be located somewhat further from the immediate vicinity of the floating structure. One such exception applies when the service equipment is housed in a separate building or structure that is not part of the floating structure. This separate building must be under the control of the marina operator to ensure that authorized personnel can readily access and maintain the equipment. In such cases, the electrical room within the passenger terminal building could potentially meet the requirement of adjacency if it meets certain conditions. The distance of 40 to 50 feet from the edge of the dock area may or may not be considered adjacent, depending on the local interpretation and specific circumstances. Factors considered by the electrical inspector include the accessibility of the service equipment, the security measures in place to prevent unauthorized access, and the overall safety of the installation. The inspector may consider whether the distance impacts the ability to quickly disconnect power in case of an emergency on the dock. The fact that the electrical room is controlled by the marina operator is a favorable factor. This control ensures that the marina operator can quickly access the service equipment to de-energize the system in the event of a fire or other emergency. The presence of keys and controlled access contributes to the argument that the equipment is functionally adjacent even if it is physically separated by some distance. It's critical to understand that the local electrical inspector has the final authority in determining whether the installation complies with the NEC and local codes. The inspector's decision is based on a comprehensive review of the plans, the specific site conditions, and the applicable interpretations of the code. It is recommended to contact the local inspector as early as possible in the planning process to discuss the proposed installation and obtain preliminary feedback. This proactive approach can help identify any potential issues and ensure that the installation meets all applicable requirements. To ensure compliance with Section 555.7 and other relevant sections of the NEC, several key aspects of the installation need to be carefully considered. Firstly, the physical location of the service equipment must be such that it is readily accessible to authorized personnel but protected from unauthorized access and environmental hazards. Secondly, the wiring methods used to connect the service equipment to the floating dock must comply with the requirements for wet locations and be suitable for the marine environment. Thirdly, all electrical components used in the installation must be listed for use in marine environments and be resistant to corrosion. Fourthly, appropriate overcurrent protection devices, such as circuit breakers or fuses, must be installed to protect the electrical system from overloads and short circuits. Fifthly, ground fault protection must be provided to minimize the risk of electric shock. Sixthly, the installation must comply with all applicable local codes and regulations, which may be more stringent than the NEC requirements. In practical terms, this means the service equipment should be in a secure enclosure accessible for maintenance and located where it will not be exposed to excessive moisture or physical damage. The wiring needs to be marine grade, properly supported, and protected from abrasion. All metallic parts must be bonded and grounded according to the NEC to minimize the risk of electrical shock. Signage should be provided to clearly identify the service equipment and provide instructions for emergency shutdown. Consider a scenario where a marina is planning to upgrade its electrical service. The existing service equipment is located on the floating dock, which is not compliant with the current NEC requirements. The marina operator proposes to move the service equipment to an electrical room in a nearby building, approximately 50 feet from the edge of the dock. The electrical room is secured and accessible only to authorized personnel. The wiring from the service equipment to the dock is run underground in conduit and is rated for wet locations. Ground fault protection is provided for all circuits serving the dock. In this scenario, the local electrical inspector would likely approve the installation, as it meets the intent of the NEC and provides a safe and reliable electrical service for the marina. However, if the electrical room were located 200 feet from the dock and access were not readily available, the inspector might object, citing concerns about response time in an emergency. The inspector might also require additional safety measures, such as remote disconnect switches in the dock, to address the increased distance. Another scenario might involve a small marina with limited space. The only available location for the service equipment is on a pier adjacent to the floating dock. The pier is subject to wave action and occasional flooding. In this case, the service equipment would need to be elevated above the flood level and protected from wave action. The wiring would need to be securely supported and protected from physical damage. The inspector might also require the use of watertight enclosures and fittings to protect the equipment from moisture. In summary, Section 555.7 of the NEC requires that service equipment for floating docks and marinas be located adjacent to, but not on or in, the floating structure. The interpretation of adjacent may vary depending on the local conditions and the judgment of the electrical inspector. It is crucial to consult with the local inspector early in the planning process to ensure that the installation complies with all applicable requirements. Factors such as accessibility, security, environmental protection, and grounding all play a critical role in ensuring a safe and compliant electrical installation. Furthermore, it's important to ensure that all electrical work is performed by qualified and licensed electricians who are familiar with the specific requirements for marine electrical installations. Let's delve further into the technical aspects and considerations that arise when implementing Section 555.7 of the National Electrical Code for marinas and floating docks. The goal is to ensure a safe and compliant electrical system, and this involves more than just adhering to the literal wording of the code. Firstly, consider the grounding and bonding requirements. The NEC mandates that all metallic parts of the electrical system, including enclosures, raceways, and equipment, must be properly bonded together and grounded. This creates a low impedance path for fault current to flow back to the source, allowing overcurrent protection devices to quickly trip and clear the fault. In a marine environment, this is especially critical because water is an excellent conductor of electricity, and any stray voltage can pose a serious shock hazard. The grounding electrode system for the service equipment should be carefully designed and installed to ensure effective grounding. This typically involves the use of ground rods or other approved grounding electrodes. The size of the grounding conductors must comply with NEC Table 250.122, which specifies the minimum size based on the rating of the overcurrent protection device. All bonding connections must be made with listed connectors and fittings, and they must be protected from corrosion. Secondly, examine the wiring methods. The NEC specifies different wiring methods that are permitted for use in wet locations, such as marinas and floating docks. These wiring methods are designed to protect the conductors from moisture and physical damage. Common wiring methods include rigid metal conduit, intermediate metal conduit, electrical metallic tubing, liquid-tight flexible metal conduit, and Type MC cable. Choice of wiring method will depend on the specific application and the environmental conditions. For example, rigid metal conduit may be used for underground feeders, while liquid-tight flexible metal conduit may be used for connections to motors or other equipment that may be subject to vibration or movement. All wiring must be supported and secured in accordance with the NEC requirements. The spacing between supports will depend on the type of wiring method used. Conductors must be protected from abrasion where they pass through walls or other structures. Thirdly, investigate overcurrent protection. Overcurrent protection devices, such as circuit breakers and fuses, are essential for protecting the electrical system from overloads and short circuits. These devices are designed to interrupt the flow of current when it exceeds a predetermined level. The NEC requires that overcurrent protection devices be installed in each ungrounded conductor. The rating of the overcurrent protection device must be coordinated with the ampacity of the conductors and the rating of the equipment being protected. For example, a 12 American wire gauge copper conductor with a typical ampacity of 20 amps should be protected by a 20 amp circuit breaker or fuse. The overcurrent protection devices must be readily accessible and clearly labeled. Fourthly, consider ground fault protection. Ground fault protection is a critical safety feature that is designed to minimize the risk of electric shock. A ground fault occurs when current leaks from an ungrounded conductor to ground. This can happen if the insulation on a wire is damaged or if a piece of equipment malfunctions. A ground fault circuit interrupter, or GFCI, is a device that is designed to detect ground faults and quickly interrupt the flow of current. The NEC requires that GFCI protection be provided for all receptacles located in wet locations such as marinas and floating docks. GFCI protection may also be required for other equipment such as lighting fixtures and boat hoists. Fifthly, focus on load calculations. Accurate load calculations are essential for determining the appropriate size of the service equipment and the feeders. The NEC provides detailed guidelines for calculating the electrical loads for various types of occupancies and equipment. The load calculations must take into account the demand factors, which are factors that reduce the calculated load to reflect the fact that not all equipment will be operating at the same time. For example, the demand factor for a marina may be lower than the demand factor for a commercial building. The load calculations must also take into account any future expansion plans. It is important to consult with a qualified electrical engineer or electrician to ensure that the load calculations are accurate and that the electrical system is properly sized. Sixthly, explore voltage drop. Voltage drop is the decrease in voltage that occurs along a conductor due to the resistance of the conductor. Excessive voltage drop can cause equipment to malfunction or operate inefficiently. The NEC recommends that the voltage drop in feeders and branch circuits not exceed 3%. The voltage drop can be calculated using Ohm's law and the resistance of the conductor. The resistance of the conductor depends on the material, size, and length of the conductor. The voltage drop can be reduced by increasing the size of the conductor or by shortening the length of the conductor. Seventhly, evaluate surge protection. Surge protection devices are designed to protect electrical equipment from voltage surges, such as those caused by lightning strikes or utility switching. These surges can damage sensitive electronic equipment, such as computers, televisions, and appliances. The NEC recommends that surge protection be provided for electrical systems in areas that are prone to voltage surges. Surge protection devices are available in a variety of types and sizes. The choice of surge protection device will depend on the specific application and the level of protection required. Eighthly, inspect marine-specific considerations. Marine environments present unique challenges for electrical systems. The high humidity, salt air, and wave action can corrode electrical components and damage wiring. It is essential to use electrical equipment and wiring that is specifically designed for use in marine environments. This equipment is typically constructed of corrosion-resistant materials such as stainless steel or brass. The wiring is typically insulated with a waterproof material, such as cross-linked polyethylene. All electrical connections must be made with waterproof connectors and fittings. Ninthly, review documentation and labeling. Proper documentation and labeling are essential for the safe and efficient operation of the electrical system. The NEC requires that all electrical equipment be clearly labeled with its voltage, amperage, and other relevant information. The electrical panel must be labeled with a directory that identifies the circuits and the loads they serve. A complete set of electrical drawings must be kept on file and readily available for reference. Tenthly, maintain regular inspections. Regular inspections are essential for identifying and correcting any potential problems before they become serious hazards. The NEC recommends that electrical systems be inspected at least once a year by a qualified electrical inspector. The inspector will check the grounding system, the wiring, the overcurrent protection devices, and other components to ensure that they are in good working order. Any deficiencies that are found must be corrected promptly. In addition to these technical aspects, it is also important to consider the aesthetic and environmental impacts of the electrical installation. The service equipment should be located in an area that is visually appealing and does not detract from the overall appearance of the marina. The installation should also be designed to minimize its impact on the environment. For example, the use of energy-efficient lighting and equipment can help to reduce the marina's carbon footprint. The process of ensuring compliance with Section 555.7 involves careful planning, meticulous installation, and ongoing maintenance. By paying attention to the details and consulting with qualified professionals, marina operators can create electrical systems that are safe, reliable, and environmentally responsible. Furthermore, it's beneficial to understand that codes and standards are not static. They evolve to address new technologies and emerging safety concerns. Staying up to date with the latest revisions to the NEC and other relevant standards is essential for maintaining a compliant and safe electrical system. Moreover, training for marina staff is vital. Staff members should be trained on basic electrical safety procedures, including how to recognize and respond to electrical hazards. They should also be trained on how to operate and maintain the electrical equipment. Regular training can help to prevent accidents and ensure that the electrical system is operated safely and efficiently. In conclusion, adhering to Section 555.7 of the NEC is not merely a matter of following rules, it is a commitment to safety and responsibility. By understanding the technical requirements, considering the environmental impacts, and investing in proper training, marina operators can create electrical systems that protect both people and property. The collaboration between marina operators, electrical contractors, and local inspectors is key to ensuring that these goals are achieved. This collaborative effort ensures the marina provides a safe environment for boaters and protects the integrity of the electrical system.